Burger's son is not this. And is also chairing. And is a chair. Oh, I think what the problem is if you have open is that they're actually default on the renewal. So that's proactively opted every.
Yeah,
Where's the?
Right here.
All right.
They shouldn't have had a.
I gotta get that.
Zoom's not connected.
Yeah, I need to get, I'm on here, but I'm.
He's gonna handle it. If you send
Yeah,
CTN to
CTN is on right now.
Zoom.
Yeah, CTN is on.
So we're gonna have to gavel in and reset.
Clerk will take attendance before the meeting comes to order. Senator Needleman. Present.
Here.
Representative Steinberg.
Representative Steinberg is present.
Senator McCrory. Representative Foster.
Rep. Foster is present.
Thank you. Senator Fazio.
Present.
Thank you. Representative Buckby.
Buckby's here.
Thank you. Representative Ackert.
Present.
Representative Ali Brennan. Senator Cabrera. Rep Cheeseman.
Present.
Rep D'Amico.
I am here.
Rep Ferraro.
Rep Ferraro present.
Representative Gresco.
Representative Gresco is here via Zoom.
Representative Horn. I see Rep Horn is on Zoom. We have Senator Marr. Senator Maroney. Representative Meskers. Oh, there's Senator
Present.
Marr. Representative Meskers. Thank you. Rep Mashinsky.
Present.
Thank you. Rep Piscopo. Thank you. Representative Terziak.
Why don't you try Senator Marr again?
Senator Marr.
Present.
Thank you.
Good morning. We will now begin the meeting of the Energy and Technology Committee. I'm Representative Jonathan Steinberg, co-chair of the committee, representing the 136th district, which is Westport. We will, before we get to our agenda items, we will have remarks from the chairs and their rankings, and I will turn it over to my esteemed co-chair, Senator Needleman.
Thank you, Representative Steinberg and Mr. Chairman. It's great to be here. It's great to be here at our kickoff meeting, hoping that we can do some great work as a group and as a committee here, focusing on ratepayers and reliability and environmental impact for energy going forward. Thank you.
So, Representative Buckby, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I hope you're doing well this morning. Thank you for everybody showing up again. So great to see again people in the room that all have high energy, which I love seeing. We love seeing high energy in the room, and there has been in discussions already. I really appreciate that. I think we're certainly moving in the right direction. It's a good current. We can say that much too. And I'm done for the day. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
We're glad to hear you're done for the day. Senator Fazio, good morning.
This is why I'm not supposed to go after Representative Buckby. It's good to be here, ready to get to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Without further ado, we're going to get right into today's agenda. We have a number of proposed bills to be reserved for subject matter public hearing. The first is House Bill 5223, an act requiring offshore wind developers to establish a compensation fund. Second is Senate Bill 20, an act concerning acquisitions and mergers of cable and telecommunications providers. The third bill we're considering is Senate Bill number 19, an act prohibiting fiber optic providers and cable companies from charging customers through the end of the billing cycle after a subscription is canceled. Fourth item is House Bill 5108, an act concerning the process for objecting to actions taken by utility companies pursuant to a vegetation management plan. And the fifth item under proposed bills to be reserved for subject matter hearing is Senate Bill 7, an act strengthening protections for Connecticut's consumers of energy. I believe Senator Needleman, you wanted to comment on at least one of these bills?
Not on one of them, just that these are broad concepts. There are a lot of ideas floating out there, and that a lot of them are going to be buckets for a lot of ideas that hopefully will all be broadly acceptable to the entire committee. So ask the public's indulgence on this while we put all this together. There's been a lot of ideas floated out there, and a lot of them are good. And I think that we need to look at all of them, and that's what we're working on. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I concur that the objective of this committee this year is to be open-minded about good ideas and to have a robust conversation. This is just the beginning of some bills that we will be considering that will engage and encourage such a conversation. So items 1 through 5, if we can consider together, is there a motion? Representative Buckby, you seem to be ready to say something.
I sure am. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to make a motion to create a consent calendar.
Are there any objections to creating a consent calendar? If not, are there any objections to putting items 1 through 5 on that consent calendar? Seeing none, maybe we can vote on the consent calendar. All right. Are there any objections to a voice vote? If not, can't do that? We're a small committee.
I think it
let's
can be
do a
voice
roll
vote. A voice vote is okay.
All right, we will do a
To the
voice
public,
vote.
this is the arcana of process. Why don't we just do a roll call vote and we'll do it swiftly. Thank you, Mr. Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Roll call on creating a consent calendar with the first 5 proposed bills. Senator Needleman,
Yes,
Senator, Representative Steinberg,
Yes.
Senator McCrory, Rep. Foster,
Rep. Foster, yes.
Senator Fazio,
Yes.
Representative Buckby,
Representative Buckby's yes.
Rep. Ackert,
Yes.
Rep. Ali Brennan, Senator Cabrera, Rep. Cheeseman,
Yes.
Rep. D'Amico,
Yes.
Rep. Ferraro,
Representative Ferraro, yes.
thank you, Rep. Gresco,
Representative Gresco votes yes.
Rep. Horn,
Rep. Warren, yes.
Senator Marr,
Senator Mar, yes.
Senator Maroney, Representative Meskers,
Rep. Meskers, yes.
Rep. Mashinsky,
Yes.
Rep. Piscopo,
yes.
Representative Terziak. That concludes the roll call vote. Yes, until the votes will be held open until 2 p.m.
Concepts to be drafted as raised bills. You will see that the 4 items listed here are all pretty broad topics. And they may also remind you of bills that were introduced by legislators this session. Rather than have a slew of individual narrow bills, we decided that since they were important topics, we would raise bills that would allow us to have a conversation about these topics broadly. So it's intended to encompass a lot of the good thoughts that were submitted to us this session. The 4 we're discussing today, an act concerning the separation of the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, an act concerning utility commissioners of the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, an act concerning electric bill structure. That's about as big as you can get. And an act concerning utility customer payment plans and extending the shut-off moratorium. We believe all these are pertinent to the issues we have at hand right now with energy rates. And I encourage everyone to support raising these bills so we can have that conversation. Representative Buckby?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I can't echo your sentiments enough on that. I think these are all solid topics that deserve their own pieces to it to come out of committee. And I would also like to move these to consent if need be as well, so that we could all move these forward and get to work.
Mr. Chairman?
I recognize Representative Mashinsky, who's looks like she's about to object again.
I'm just objecting to putting item 1 on the consent. I'd like to get a roll call on that one.
All righty, so we will pull 1 and we can consider 2, 3, and 4 unless there are further objections to creating a consent calendar in that regard. Seeing none, why don't we take a vote on 2, 3, and 4, and then we'll come back to item 1 if everybody's agreeable with that.
Roll
Mr.
call.
Clerk?
Roll call vote for a consent calendar created for concepts to be raised 2 through 4. Senator Needleman,
Yes.
Rep. Steinberg,
Yes.
Senator McCrory, Rep. Foster,
Yes.
Senator Fazio,
Yes.
Rep. Buckby,
Yes.
Rep. Ackert,
Yes.
Rep. Ali Brennan, Senator Cabrera, Rep. Cheeseman,
Yes.
Rep. D'Amico,
Rep. D'Amico, yes.
Rep. Ferraro,
Rep Ferraro, yes.
Rep. Gresco,
Representative Gresco votes yes.
Rep. Horn,
Rep Horn, yes.
Senator Marr,
Senator Marr, yes.
Senator Maroney, Rep. Meskers,
Rep. Meskers, yes.
Rep. Mashinsky,
Rep. Mashinsky, yes.
Rep. Piscopo,
Rep. Piscopo, yes.
Rep. Tursiak. That concludes the roll call vote. Vote will be held open until 2 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Now we will return to item 1, an act concerning the separation of the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority from the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection. Senator Needleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'd like to speak to this for a minute in a broader way. Back, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, we created a new structure for oversight of our utilities. We combined deep and what was then the DPUC into one agency with because there were some very specific issues. I think instead of the title is the title, and I have no exception with that. But I think that after 10 years or 12 years of living with this structure, it's enough legislators on both sides of the aisle have had concerns about the structure. And this is meant to be sort of a bucket for a broader discussion about what the rationale was, how we got here, what the decisions were to get here, whether this method of achieving those goals was the only method, and whether or not going forward we want to tweak, amend, redefine the whole process. So I think that that's whatever the title, that's the intent here. And I'm hoping that when we have a public hearing on this subject, the parties that were involved in creating the current structure might be willing to come and explain to us what the genesis of the ideas were and why they thought there was a problem with the prior structure. So I just want to be clear about what the purpose there is. It's a broader conversation about the structure of how we manage energy and environment together, because they are very much interrelated. And whether or not this was the best way to do it or not, whether, again, it needs tweaking, a broader look, or just starting all over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I hope everybody watching is getting the sense that the committee this year is very open to having conversations. I will suggest that not all these conversations will be resolved even in the timeframe of this particular session. But we're going to be deliberate about it, and we're going to make sure we talk to the right people, and that any conclusions that we draw are based upon facts, and that we're responsive to both interested parties, but most importantly, the public. So that conversation is going to happen. Representative Mashinsky is going to help us begin that conversation. Mashinsky.
Appreciate the explanation of the bill. My concern is that we are on a path to 100% fossil-free energy generation by 2040. And to get there, I think it's important that the agencies that deal with energy policy are running in the same direction. That is what concerns me. And if we were to decide to separate the two again, they're now running in two different directions. One of them may be concentrating on price, and the other one may be concentrating on emissions from generation. And they may start to be in competition again when our policy is to get to zero carbon generation by 2040, I think everybody's got to be in the same lane, basically, to get there. So that's what concerns me about the bill. No disrespect to the chairs, but I'm going to vote no for that reason. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's an interesting issue you raise, Representative, which is the concept of alignment on policy. Whereas I could also argue that a vigorous debate on policy is also important. And there's a natural tension between all rowing in the same direction and tolerating divergent viewpoints. We may default to the concept of having a broad conversation, but it's certainly not our intent to create confusion or disharmony among all the players who determine energy policy here in the state of Connecticut. Next up is Representative Ferraro, followed by Representative Meskers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I echo the thoughts that you just expressed in response to Representative Mashinsky's valid concerns. One of the things that I would like to point out in my disagreement with the good representative is that just because there's disagreement between the regulatory branch and the policymaking branch doesn't mean that eventually the boat is going to go in the same direction. I do think it's positive to the debate that all sides of the argument are heard, and in doing so, sometimes a compromise is necessary, even though we're heading towards a common goal, and a goal in order to make sure that some of the shortfalls and pitfalls that may happen along the way can be avoided. So I'm all for raising the concept, getting a public hearing on it, and hearing what both agencies have to say with regards to those points that were raised by Senator Needleman. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Meskers.
Thank you, Chair. Without getting too far along in the discussion of the concepts, I think it behooves us. There's a dialogue you can sense brewing, which is a question of what electrons we're putting through the system in nature of whether they're green or brown or environmentally friendly. And I'm willing to have that dialogue as a singular dialogue on the electrons that goes through the system. Where I'm looking for the independence in the regulatory authority is in the nature and classification since deregulation of the infrastructure. And I think I want to look closely at the infrastructure, look at the compensation based on the infrastructure, making sure the right capital adequacy. I think it's a fundamental and discrete conversation on environmental issues, and I'm strongly supportive, and infrastructure. And I want to make sure that if I'm paying for a Cadillac on infrastructure, I'm getting a Cadillac. And if I'm paying for a Cadillac and I'm getting a Yugo in terms of my infrastructure, I want to know why. So I think looking at the infrastructure independently is probably where I'm coming out, why I'm anxious to have the dialogue. And on the electrons, I know we'll have a healthy discussion too about what electrons we're putting through the system. But thank you.
I take your point, Representative. And I guess my first question is, does a Cadillac, is it an EV or is it an ICE?
It depends on where the electrons come from as well.
Thank you. And I think we'll have a lot of conversation about infrastructure in this committee this year. So your point's well taken. Are there any other comments or questions before we have a roll call vote on this item? If not, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call vote on concept number 1 to be raised. Senator Needleman,
Yes.
Representative Steinberg,
Yes.
Senator McCrory, Rep Foster,
Yes.
Senator Fazio,
Yes.
Representative Buckby,
Yes.
Rep Ackert, Rep Ali Brennan, Senator Cabrera, Rep Cheeseman,
Yes.
Rep D'Amico,
D'Amico votes yes.
Rep Ferraro,
Rep Ferraro votes yes.
Rep Gresco,
Representative Gresco votes yes.
Rep Horn,
Rep Horn votes yes.
Senator Marr,
Senator Mar votes yes.
Senator Maroney, Rep Meskers,
Rep. Meskers votes yes.
Rep Mashinsky,
Rep. Mashinsky votes no.
Rep Piscopo,
Yes.
Rep Tursiak. The vote will be held open until 2 p.m., but that concludes the roll for now.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. We have only one item left on the agenda, and this represents
excuse
the
me.
committee's first glitch of the session. And I'm sure we'll probably have more than one before we're done. It's the right bill, but the wrong bill number. And because of that, we're going to hold this bill and take it up next week with the right number. So there's no confusion on anyone's behalf. So if there's no objection, we will hold this bill. We are now ready to talk about going forward. And before, I'll announce the next meeting will be next Thursday. Probably in the 10, 11 o'clock range. We'll confirm that. But more importantly, I want to alert members of the committee and the public as to some other meetings that we have tentatively scheduled before the end of this committee process. As mentioned previously, we have 3 informational forums that we intend to have. The first will be on January 31st, the second on February 7th, and the third on February 16th. We'll get out notifications to all committee members and share it with the public. In addition, Pura will be making a presentation to the committee on February 9th. And our committee meetings will fit in around that. You will note that some of these informational forums are not on Tuesdays and Thursdays because of constraints in our calendar. We're taking advantage of our ability to use other days of the week, and we hope we can all accommodate them. The informational forums are, I think, particularly important, not merely for members of the committee, some of which may have been on the committee for some years, but so we can get on the same page with everybody in the legislature and with the public. The public has a right to know and understand where we are today, how we got here, and what our options are. And we're hopeful these informational forums, 2 of which will be on the energy side, 1 on the broadband side, will help illuminate some of the issues, the choices we have made, the risks inherent in some of our choices, and where we can go from here. Again, not all these things will necessarily resolve themselves into legislation this session, but we think it's part of a very important dialogue that we will have. So I encourage you all to see if you can make these forums. We're going to try to keep them tight, not run all night with them. I know it may take several hours, but they'll be highly informative and will afford you an opportunity to ask questions of the experts and get feedback. Okay, and here we are back in process. According to our LCO, who knows these things, maybe we should really vote on the consent calendar, the whole, just the second piece, the 2, 3, 4, or both of them? All right, so we're going to vote on the consent calendar by roll call vote. And to be explicit, those are the 5 items we had in proposed bills to reserved. The 3 items in terms of concepts to be drafted as raised bill. So that's House Bill 5223, Senate Bill 20, Senate Bill 19, House Bill 5108, Senate Bill 7, and an act concerning utility commissioners of the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, an act concerning electric bill structure, and an act concerning utility customer payment plans and extending the shut-off moratorium. Does that sound correct, everyone? All right, a vote on the roll call vote. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Needleman,
Yes.
Rep Steinberg,
Yes.
Senator McCrory, Rep Foster,
Yes.
Senator Fazio,
Yes.
Rep Buckby,
Yes.
Rep. Ackert, Rep. Ali Brennan, Senator Cabrera, Rep. Cheeseman,
Yes.
Rep. D'Amico,
D'Amico votes yes.
Rep. Ferrara,
Rep. Ferraro, yes.
Rep. Gresco,
Representative Gresco votes yes.
Rep. Horn,
Rep. Horn, yes.
Senator Marr, Senator Maroney, Rep. Meskers,
Rep. Meskers, yes.
Rep. Mashinsky,
Mashinsky, yes.
Rep. Piscopo,
Yes.
Rep. Tursiak. The vote will be held open until 2, but that concludes the voting for now.
Once again, we'll be holding the votes open until 2 p.m. today.
Yes.
Any other business before the committee? If not, we will recess the Energy and Technology Committee. Thank you all.